Jordan, can you please unmute Bryant Daniels? I just want to ask Bryant a quick question. Bryant, are you around?
Hey, Paul.
Is BJ dialing in? I just want to see if he needs
Yes. Yeah, just give me 1 second.
Okay. I see him on now. Just joined. Thank you. So good evening, everybody. Let's get going. Before we get going with my comments, Jordan, do you want to say your words about conduct of the meeting and the like, please?
Thank you, Paul. Welcome. If this is your first time joining us virtually, you will notice that you are currently muted and everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting except for the committee chair, Paul, and any presenters as we move through the agenda. Following the presentations, Paul will call on members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by pressing the raise hand button on the bottom of your screen, not the wave or thumbs up, as those will disappear. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling in on the phone, it is *+9 to raise your hand and *+6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the chair calls on you. The chat is available for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems, not to ask questions of the chair. He will not see the chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you may need to find the React menu, Participants menu, or the button that says More, where you will find the raise hand feature in one of those. If you plan to speak during the meeting, it would help us if you would rename your device with your full first and last name. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. Chat me, I'm here for support.
Thank you very much, Jordan. So good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Crickler. Welcome to this December meeting of the Roosevelt Island Committee of Community Board 8 in Manhattan. You're very welcome here this evening. A couple of quick things from me first before we get going. Firstly, there'll be no January meeting. For those who follow these meetings along, nothing next month. And the second thing is I wanted to say a thank you to somebody who's not here, Amy Namdar, who has been one of our two public members of this committee, and she's decided not to stand again next year. I just want to say a big thank you to Amy. She's done a lot of things for this island that probably most people don't know about. I'll name a couple. There are a couple of intersections here or crosswalks here which are much safer now because she's having cleared of vehicles so that vision's not obstructed and made our lives safer. She's also worked very hard when we were very active on the tram campaign. So Amy will be missed and great thanks to her. So on to the agenda for this evening. Let me move on to our first item, which is the REOC update from Bryant Daniels.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I will be brief this evening because I know we have a pretty packed agenda. I just wanted to remind everybody that we have our holiday tree lighting coming up this Friday at Meditation Lawn at 6 p.m. It's a really wonderful event. We're going to have performances by some of the different youth groups on the island, jazz band. We'll have some hot cocoa, which we're really going to need because apparently it's going to be quite chilly on Friday. So please be sure to come and dress warm for it. But it's a really lovely event. And it marks the end of our 2026 event calendar. So we hope to see you there. And that's it for me right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bryant. I enjoyed it so much last year. I should be going on Friday, so thank you.
Great.
Our second item is the library update. Kate, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate. I'm the manager at the Roosevelt Island Library. Thank you so much for having us. I'm also very excited for the tree lighting. We will be there. For those who were at the full board meeting, I made the announcement that we have our best books of 2025 list out. We have bookmarks, we have the full list all available here at the library. And new to this year, through December 31st, 25 of the titles on our list are have unlimited digital access, which means you don't have to wait for them. You can just download them and start reading right away. And then a couple of other plugs just for some December events we have. We have collaboration with iDig to Learn and the Battery Conservancy. They're doing a native plants and forest gardens for food, medicine, habitat, and craft. That'll be 1 week from tonight at 6 p.m. And then on Monday, December 29th, when all the kids are home from school, please have them come to the library. We are having storyteller Rachel Harrington here at the library to do a interactive folk and fairy tales, snow, ice, and winter light themed story time. There'll be a craft that follows and it'll be a lot of fun. Last thing I'll say is if you have stopped in the library, you've noticed that we have been doing a little bit of upgrade to our space. The teen area has gotten a big redo. There's some new chairs there, making it really welcoming for the teen patrons. And then we're working on moving some of the collection around just to optimize the space we have and get in as many books as we have so that there are more things for you to read. So stop on by. I look forward to seeing you all on Friday. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate. We have such a great library. Thank you so much. So much programming as well. It's incredible. Third, anybody else on this Zoom have anything they would like to share with the community about any events coming up in the next month? I see Frank France, please.
Hey, everyone. Frank Ferentz, president of the Residents Association. We have our weekly community preparedness, emergency preparedness presentations. This month we'll be covering the holiday decor safety. So Christmas trees, candles, hopefully you're not using and stuff like that. I'll send that in the chat. Maybe you can then pass on the link. It's the same one every week, Thursday at 8 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. I really want to encourage folks to come and use this as a place to talk about community updates. So if anyone here knows of people who are doing things, please encourage them to come to the monthly meeting if they would like to publicize it. Thank you. Judy Birdie, please.
Good evening. The Roosevelt Island Historical Society will be at 2 of the community holiday sales this Saturday at the resale sale at 546 Main Street, and next Saturday at the Rita RIDA sale, also at the Senior Center next Saturday. And we're having a special holiday event, and we will invite, it's at Blackwell House on Thursday the 11th. It will be a tea demonstration and discussion of matcha tea and different teas, along with the holiday celebration from the Roosevelt Island Historical Society. So it's on Thursday, December 11th from 5 to 9 p.m. Yes, you can get into Blackwell House and see it. So we expect everyone to attend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judy. I've been on one occasion to an event inside that house. Gorgeous. And so I encourage anybody who hasn't had a chance. It's really a lovely thing to have. It's a jewel that we have here on the island. So I encourage you. Thank you, Judy. So let's move on to our third next agenda item, which is the next chapter for this island. I just wanted to say one quick word about this before I hand over to BJ and other people presenting on this. The way I look at this from what I've read so far and heard so far is that what I take away from this is that I think we as an island have a massive opportunity here to shape what this island looks like and what it can be for us in terms of how we live here. I think we're going to have significant opportunities to do things the way we would like them done. I think what I see here is an opportunity for us to give input, and it seems to be very welcome as part of this whole next process. So I fully intend to participate in this. I encourage everybody else to do that. I will be obviously relentless about transit to and from this island. If we have more development, we need substantial upgrade, meaningful upgrade in all of the ways of getting to and from this island. But that's not for tonight. I did want to say, though, I see this as a massive opportunity, and I'm delighted to pass this over to BJ Jones and other folks to talk us through the master lease and the rest of this. Looking forward to our next chapter. Thank you, BJ.
Thank you, Paul. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, got your phone. Fine,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you for setting the stage for those remarks. I also believe that this is a good opportunity for us to collectively think about what's next. And so I appreciate you having us here this evening, and I'm also happy to be here with some of our city colleagues as we begin this effort, including representatives from the Neighborhood Strategies team at the Economic Development Corporation, as well as NYC Health and Hospitals. It's timely that we're beginning this conversation. It's 50 years since residents first moved in here to the island, and so it's a good time to be thinking about what the next 50 years can look like for Roosevelt Island. And the framework that will provide a kind of a broad outline for tonight is connected to two key components, an extension of the master lease and what we're excited about, a joint planning study and community engagement process between the city, state, and REOC to study the island's current and future needs, in addition to what it might take to add additional housing at two locations. As I mentioned, we're joined by partners from the city who will be instrumental in executing this planning study and will help go into a variety of aspects of what we envision for the process later in this presentation. It's important to note, and you may hear me and others say this over and over again, that this is the very, very beginning of this planning process and this conversation, which will take some time. And so we're looking forward to starting this conversation with you tonight and continuing it as we move forward throughout the course of this study. And we're doing so recognizing that this island is a great place to live, work, and visit, and we want to preserve that for the next 50 years and beyond. And so what you see here is how we're framing tonight's high-level presentation. We're going to go over a little bit why we're here, talk a little bit about guiding principles and where we're aiming to get to, the potential outcomes that we're looking forward to digging into, and acknowledge what we've already heard to date, some of which flows from the conversation I had here with the Community Board 8 Roosevelt Island Committee a few weeks or months ago now, and also our community survey, and talk a little bit about next steps. We'll also allow time at the end for your questions and maybe more importantly, just your ideas at this stage in the planning process. So we did hold a briefing for Kohler Hospital staff and residents before the holiday week, but this is really kind of our first public meeting on this process, and so we are eager to hear from you tonight with your initial thoughts and feedback. And so I will reiterate just one more time that we're early in developing this process, and so there may be some questions you ask tonight that we're still going to be figuring out the answers to, but those questions will also help inform how we approach this planning study and engagement process. And so we do want you to voice what is important to you. As you had said, Paul, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get ideas, needs heard, to put them on the table as we think about the future of the island more broadly. Next slide, please. So why are we here? Let's just take a step back on kind of what's leading to this moment and this opportunity. And I'm sure most, if not all of you, are familiar with this, but just in case, for context, Roosevelt Island is largely operated by the organization I'm part of, the Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation, a state entity that manages the island. It was created after the city, which owns the land that we're on, leased it to the state in order to develop it and maintain it. And that agreement between the city and the state, which you'll hear us talk about a little bit throughout this presentation, is the master lease. And the master lease was set with a term of 99 years and was signed in 1969. And so it's currently set to expire in 2068, which in some ways seems far off, but it's really not that long from now when you're thinking about things that affect the long-term needs of the island and being able to plan for them. And also thinking about it from a financing perspective for building owners and homeowners, where certainty around the master lease is an important factor when it comes to mortgages and loans and financing and what have you. And so that can affect things, sooner than later, like property values, and that's where an extension of the master lease can be really helpful, and again can also be helpful to REOC too, and as we plan for investments that are needed to sustain the island in the years to come. So it's important to obtain an extension as soon as possible to help alleviate potential economic uncertainty, and recognizing this, the city and the state have been working to map out an extension of the master lease, and we're excited that there's a framework for the near term that we've landed on that would enable us to have a near-term 10-year extension, which will allow for a more robust planning and community engagement process that we hope will result in a plan that will also enable us to extend the master lease for much longer into the future. And so this planning study will seek to understand the island's needs for infrastructure improvements, for example, service enhancements, in addition to recognizing the city's need for more housing. And we're thinking about this in terms of the opportunity for housing at the former steam plant site, as well as potentially the Kohler campus. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so there's three main entities that are working together on this planning process and community engagement. Of course, it's REOC and the other entities I mentioned at the outset. Neighborhood Strategies, part of the Economic Development Corporation, and Health and Hospitals. We should consider adding a fourth box here, frankly, which would be all of you who are participating tonight, and the broader community, stakeholders who are invested in Roosevelt Island over the long term, and so will be integral to this entire process. We'll be working to coordinate engagement with Roosevelt Island residents, business owners, Kohler residents, staff, and more. So again, we're at the start. There'll be many more meetings to come, starting early in 2026. We'll begin outlining a planning process that will be supported with urban planning resources to understand what the island needs, not just in the future, but right now. And it'll think about, in terms of those needs, what we need to do to get them addressed. So there's a lot to come, but it's an exciting and consequential time for the island, and one that can be really positive. And so to tell you a little bit more about kind of the planning process itself, I'm delighted to turn it over to Betsy Daniel, who's an assistant vice president at EDC in Neighborhood Strategies, and who's going to walk us through the process a little bit more. Betsy?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, BJ. So as he mentioned, this is the beginning of the process, but our work together will be guided by these set of guiding principles. First being your voices as residents are central to shaping the next chapter of Roosevelt Island. As you've heard, I mentioned at the top, engaging with you as one of our first steps, even before formal planning begins. Another one of our guiding principles is making sure that we're maintaining a continuity of care and services at Kohler. while also coming up with a plan to modernize facilities for Kohler residents and staff. Next, we want to make sure that we're preparing the island for increased threats from climate change and sea level rise, and making sure that we have a future that is sustainable and resilient. Additionally, we'll want to make sure that any of the planning work we do or the site plans or options that we're planning for the necessary infrastructure, be that transportation, parks, community service, and other amenities and investments that'll serve you as residents able to serve the rest of the island. And as BJ already mentioned, the city continues to face a housing crisis, and more acutely an affordable housing crisis. So there's an opportunity here to be able to create more homes for all New Yorkers to be able to address this crisis. And finally, as we work together, we're going to be thinking about how to work on potential funding models to enable REOC and the city to be able to support new infrastructure projects and the operational needs for the island. Our work will be guided by these set of guiding principles, but how will we actually get there? We are committed, we as the project team, as mentioned earlier, are committed to a collaborative, robust, inclusive, and transparent engagement and planning process that reflects the feedback and priorities of the Roosevelt Island residents, the Kohler residents, and staff, and we're just at the start. As mentioned before, this process will start in earnest in early 2026 and last likely a year. What we call the first phase is education and listening. We will utilize multiple methods to gather feedback directly from you all about your experiences and what you value in the community. We can engage residents through small group discussions, town halls, other meetings, public workshops to make sure there's a diverse set of voices are heard. We'll use the REOC survey and other surveys as an initial starting point from understanding the community perspectives. The second phase is goals and priorities. We'll work collaboratively to establish shared goals and priorities for the future of Roosevelt Island. We'll identify future opportunities that we should all be working towards to continue to make sure this is a unique place to live and work. The third phase is what we call drafting and refining the plan. We'll draft and develop plan or plans based on community input, and we'll work collaboratively to refine this to a final vision for the island's future. We'll collect feedback on plan options, approaches, incorporate this all into the final vision. As seen on this diagram, we'll be incorporating feedback throughout the process and it'll shape the outcome of each phase. So what will this lead to? Essentially, the potential outcomes is a vision plan, a plan that can help to shape the next chapter of Roosevelt Island, and it will be built on the guiding principles that I just talked about. It'll be built on making sure that the plan has necessary infrastructure and community amenities that can serve the island and its residents today and in the future, that we're maintaining a continuity of care and services for Kohler residents and staff. We make sure that the island is sustainable and resilient to increasing threats from climate change, creating more homes for all New Yorkers, and exploring these potential funding models to help support new infrastructure projects and operational needs for the island. So now we already heard through surveys, and we're sharing out to you some of the key things that we have heard already. And throughout this process, we'll learn more and continue to shape these to the final vision plan. We've heard that Roosevelt Island's residents love living here and they want to stay livable for all locals. Roosevelt Island residents like the parks and green open spaces, the quiet, serene feel, and their all island safety. Kohler residents want to ensure that the parks, transportation, and community service remain and are truly accessible to all of them. Roosevelt Island residents want more reliable transportation options, better retail and medical urgent care options, flood protection, and want to protect the mixed income character of the housing, but with more affordable options. This is just a starting point, and we'll continue to learn more from all you during this process about what you like about Roosevelt Island, what can be improved, and what should be worked on for the future of the island. As already mentioned, we were beginning the process. As BJ mentioned, we met with Kohler residents and staff November 20th, and we're meeting with you all here today. There's a REOC board meeting this Thursday, and then to be scheduled a REOC Real Estate Development Advisory Committee, where I'll be sharing information again today. And then early 2026, we'll begin the planning engagement process. And again, it's the very beginning, and we're excited to work with you all today. So thank you. We'll close over now to Q&A. We really want to hear what your input is, anything that we can include into the planning process as we flesh out those details as we start in early 2026. I'll pass it to BJ for any other closing thoughts.
Thank you, Betsy. I'm sorry you're in the dark there. Your automatic light switches. Yeah, I think that really does cover it. Thanks again, Paul, for being able to facilitate having us here so early on in the process. And so, yeah, we welcome the opportunity now to get some feedback and input to consider as we map out next steps. I should also mention that we will be finalizing a website too, where we'll post updates and you'll be able to keep track of what's happening as we go through this process. So we'll share that with you as well.
Thank you very much, Betsy and BJ. That was tremendous. That was very nicely done. It was didn't take an awful long time to get a very clear message out that we're at the early stages. We haven't started the early stages yet, so it was very clear. Thank you. I have a couple of comments. First comment is, I'd like to invite you both to use this as a forum to stay in touch with the community. So, for example, it could be twice a year, or it could be at other times on occasion as needed. I think that would be tremendous. There's a huge number of people here today. 42 is a big number. I can see on my screen. So I would encourage everybody here who lives on the island to tell your neighbors and friends that this is the place that they can come to get involved with. I don't just see this as a one-way street of they'll be telling us things. This is where we can be coming up with our ideas of what we want and as a place to talk about them together, and then also with REOC and with the New York Economic Development Corporation. So I really encourage you to get people to be attuned to the monthly. We do about 10 of the monthly meetings a year. It's the first Monday of each month unless it's a holiday. So it's easy to find the meeting details on the CB8 website. So please, all of you zoomed in today, please tell your neighbors about this. This is a sort of big step change in this place coming up. It'll be with us for the next 5-7 years of planning and doing and beyond executing. So if people will want to have a voice in this, clearly, lots of voices, this is a very good place to do that. Second thing I want to say very quickly, I'll just put my little flag in the ground here with our friends at the NYEDC and also with you, BJ, to help us with other agencies. We need to have a significant change in the step up in transit here. It's got to be something like at least double the ferry service. Right now it's 45 minutes and no one really bothers taking the ferry here because it's every 45 minutes or an hour. If it was every 20-25 minutes, I think a lot more people on this island would use it because you would just go along there knowing it's only 25 minutes away or 20 minutes away or 15 minutes away, whatever that is. But 45 minutes doesn't work. So we're going to need lots of transit. We need significantly better subway service, clearly, than whatever we get out of the FM switch. And we need priority boarding on the Roosevelt Island tram. Those, I think, are the three basic prerequisites. I'm sure there are other things we'll think of. So I couldn't resist the opportunity with friends watching here to, give you what I think we need for transit. We're going to have a lot of people who have questions. So let me go to first Frank Ferrance.
Hello, again, Frank Ferrance, president of the Roosevelt Island Residents Association. And RERA has been looking into a lot of these topics since the 1990s. I've certainly been interested and advocated for the master lease extension for at least a dozen years. So let me just say a couple things. Let's go on the assumption that pretty much everything REOC does and the services that they provide are good stuff. And overall, we're happy with that, although there can be some improvements. But let's just start with that as an assumption. I don't want this to be a pick on REOC thing. I would say, looking at your budget, though, I don't see how adding, 2 more housing developments, which might add $2 or $4 million a year on $20 million in, ground lease revenue, really allows the corporation to survive another 30 years, maybe 10 or 15 years. But I think you need to address that your long term. And I know maybe there's some cross funding here with the city. Second thing, and I also want to echo Paul's point on transportation. I want you to take a look at some bigger ideas on this. We've expressed this in the past, but hollowing out the 60th Street subway tunnel, just go with me for a second there, adds another stop and then greatly improves the transit for Roosevelt Island. But you get another benefit if you have a tunnel that's at under street level here that goes between the two stations and the tram, is then it becomes a regional benefit, and therefore can benefit from city, federal, regional, and state funding. So it benefits the MTA rather than just Roosevelt Island. And then maybe there's some other benefits that you can get on that. We'll have some more proposals. I'll pass on, but good luck. And we do care about REAC being financially viable, and welcome aboard. Look forward to meeting you some point soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. I'll just mention briefly, I don't want to take time away from questions, but I think you hit the nail on the head talking about, the need for continued financial viability, and that's why considering, financial models that can help with that is an important piece of that. Certainly revenue streams that, REAC controls and expanding those is the way to do it, but also just in terms of, making an even more compelling case for other investment, whether it's from the city and state grants and what have you. So definitely want that to be part of this conversation and planning study. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Frank. Zora, please.
Hello, my name is Zora Buyajieva. I'm a licensed architect and an urbanist, and I am also raising my family on the island, like many of us in this meeting. I would like to say welcome to BJ Jones. Welcome to our community.
Thanks.
And I would like to thank EDC for this presentation tonight. It sounds fantastic that the residents will be included and there will be a wider discussion. But it strikes me already at the start that the sites for development are already chosen. If we are going to talk about sincere discussion about the future of the island, maybe we should start really from the scratch and not pre-choose, sites for development. Development needs to happen, right? We need to develop. The world cannot stop revolving around its axis. REAC needs to show its budget. We all understand that, but I'm not sure that the color site, just like that off the top of my head, is the best site to develop. Or I'm not sure that it's sustainable to demolish a building like the steam power station that's been calendared for demolition. I heard Betsy talking about sustainability. It's the most unsustainable thing to do, to demolish a building that can be repurposed. And I think we should, all of us, we should take a step back and rethink some of the decisions that have been maybe made already before the discussion starts.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Zora, for sharing your views. Can we please go to Stefan, Mr. Silverstein?
Hi, good evening. I wanted to concentrate on two things. One, the emergency part of the redevelopment, which is the demolition and remediation of the steam plant. And I was wondering who is paying for that, and will that work include the steam tunnel, which extended, and connected the steam plant to Kohler Hospital, that's located under the Eastern Promenade, and has also been reported to be at risk of collapsing and was also a source of serious flooding to the Kohler Hospital during our last major storm. So I'm wondering whether the steam tunnel is included in that demolition and remediation plan, and again, who would be paying for it? And then the second question I had is about Kohler Hospital. There seems to be mixed messages about revitalizing Kohler as a facility and also providing housing on the same site, residential housing. So I'm confused as to what the goal or the priority is there and how those conflicting issues could be resolved.
I'll start, Betsy, if you want to jump in. Yep, on the steam plant itself, that's the city's responsibility and HPD's responsibility to demolish it, and so they'll be responsible for that now. Over the long term, as we think about the potential for new development and new revenue streams, we will contemplate as part of that cost sharing as well as revenue sharing for what's needed to be put in place should we decide to pursue the redevelopment that we're contemplating in this presentation. Stefan, the steam plant demolition that was ordered by the Department of Buildings does not include the steam tunnel, but the steam tunnel is certainly one of those needs that we need to take seriously in terms of addressing. And so that should be, part of this effort. And on the Kohler piece, again, I'll just say, again, it's early days, and so kind of figuring out what this all means is what this process is for, and why your input on that is really important. Betsy, anything else you'd add?
Yeah, I'll just say and reiterate, we're at the beginning of the conversation, and we want to make sure that the residents and staff play a role in that process as well. I'll just note that the facility is more than 70 years old and an extensive capital need. So we'll work together about hearing the priorities for the campus and the engagement process when it formally launches in January. There will study opportunities for the site, including locating both potentially residential and Kohler, but that future is unknown as we're starting this planning process.
Thank you. Can we go to Rachel, please?
Yes. Hi, Rachel Dowling. Let's see if I can.
Hello, Rachel.
Hi. I am a resident of Roosevelt Island. I'm not a stakeholder. I'm a renter. Have been on the island for almost 13 years. And in one of the, I'm in the original building that Hudson Related built. And I'm feeling not so peachy keen as everybody else about this whole plan. I feel kind of blindsided by it. I don't understand why it's coming up now. It seems to me the timing is kind of odd that this is coming up now, right when we're on the heels of one administration going out and another one coming in. Also, we've been told for years that Building 9 would be the last building. And, that suddenly now, I mean, the extension of the ground lease sounds great. Why does the trade-off have to be putting up more residential buildings? To me, that just seems crazy. The island is very finite. We're separated by water. We have, it's a delicate ecosystem here, and we're already overdeveloped. I wouldn't like to see the island go through massive changes, and the idea of putting up buildings in order to then create the precedent to increase transportation infrastructure seems to me like it's putting the cart before the horse. And, I would just really like to see everything slow down. We haven't had much tranquility here in quite a while. I've watched the demolition of Goldwater State Hospital. I watched the, erection of Cornell. We've seen all these other buildings go up around, and, I just don't understand why it should be here. It doesn't make sense. And I would also like to reiterate and echo what Zora mentioned about the idea of, pulling this back a bit further in terms of community engagement and, the starting place for all of this. And I find myself a bit cynical about this idea that, we're going to engage the community. I feel like that's just kind of trying to put icing on the cake to make it seem more appealing. But basically, there's been just a lot of noise, a lot of construction, and we haven't even felt the effects yet of the brand new 30-story building that just went up, that just got occupied. Like, give us some time to, feel our oats and see where we really are and how we are able to sustain all of this before just jumping in, to start putting in new buildings. So I that's just where I am right now with it. I don't feel receptive to the idea.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. It's an important perspective, and I would encourage and welcome you to be part of the process for that reason.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, BJ. Judy Burley, please.
Judy.
Okay. Hi again. Hello. Okay. Well, we have some empty storefronts, right?
Yeah.
I think we should move EDC onto the island. No, I'm sure our friends at the real estate give EDC an office, let their staff work here, an open door without a buzzer for people to come in and talk to them. Let the EDC staff be here and see what we go through, see what the transportation is, see what the infrastructure is. Let them go over Main Street that's the cobblestones are falling apart. I really think there's no way. I'm tired of consultants, and I said this at the Kohler meeting. We don't need consultants who are going to come in here and, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let's tear down the nursing home and get rid of it. We need EDC staff and the consultants that we approve of as a community, not the ones that get all the deals, to come and be on the island. Let them spend a year on the island with us. Let them hear from more than the usual 100 people. This is our community, and we have the right to know that any planning and anything done, we should be part of it. Not behind closed doors, not on meetings where everything is needed, but they should be here. They will love eating at Nisi. They will love taking the tram every day with 1,000 tourists. I really think that this is the way. If we want people to know about the island, they should live it with us. When Ed Logue and the UDC developed the island, they sent all the architects out here for a week or two to live in the apartments where they occupied them. So that's my main thing, is that I really think we need a few more people on Main Street, and also those support our local businesses. Of the steam plant demolition, any demolition done, if you see the equipment in the steam plant, the debris cannot be removed by vehicle. It has to be barged off the island. The heavy duty monster machinery that is in the steam plant cannot be put on a flatbed truck or anything and bumped over Main Street. Main Street is falling apart. I don't even think the capacity of our bridge could take the equipment if you're going to demolish how many 1,000 square feet of a brick building. This is part of the deal. You want the steam plant gone, you pay for barging like Cornell paid for barging. They built a pier, and the debris was removed by barge. Because that is the way. We have to preserve our street. The only other thing I can say is that without and refilling the steam plants, our East Seawall is the steam tunnel. The East Seawall is going to fall apart. We cannot let them get away with this. You have to get rid of the steam plant if you want to get rid of the steam. You have to get rid of the steam tunnel if you want to get rid of the steam plant, because we all know that that seawall is going to eventually collapse and leak and have more problems. Why should we let them? Okay, you can have your nice development site. Oh, now we have half a mile of the east side of the island collapsing. No, the steam tunnel has to be part of the demolition of the steam. The steam has to be part of the steam plant. That's all I have to say. Good evening. But seriously, I really think EDC would love being a tenant on Roosevelt Island. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. I just want to say, I see a lot of hands up. I do want to say something that is probably on your radar screen, but just to make sure it's on everybody else's, is that we do have HPD coming tomorrow to our Operations Advisory Committee to talk about their demolition.
Thank you, BJ. I actually wanted to support one thing in particular that Judy said, which is it should be a bare minimum, no trucking of any of the stuff off the island. It's got to be barges.
Barging would be
We're just
good.
about to redo the main street next year. That would be not smart. So thank you, Judy. Next up is Stephen and Tom. One of you two is Stephen or Tom. Sorry, I don't know who's who.
Hey, I'm Tom. I'm
Hey,
Tom
Tom.
Heyer, and I'm a resident on the island. And now, thank you, Paul, and welcome, BJ, to the island. You've gone through a lot in your short amount of time. And I really appreciate this meeting tonight. I think that something that you can, or at least I can kind of sense is, there's a low level of anxiety amongst the residents here of things that are, to be changed. I think, Paul talking about transportation and all that is hugely valid. I think that I just want to express one of my big concerns is Kohler Hospital and the future of it. And, it is a place that needs some improvement. Obviously, it's a place that is old and needs some, it needs lots of repairs, shall we say. But it's a place where not only is it a rehab center, but there are neighbors there too. There are people that live there. And I know I personally worry that that is a chunk of prime real estate, and New York City has always been a place of, follow the money real estate wise. And that's a very valuable piece of land there. And I always want to live in a place where there's access to healthcare. It's not just like Judy Birdie was actually there, earlier this year for rehabilitation. It's a working hospital where people on the island can go for their rehab. And I have lots of friends who live there. And part of what makes it a great prime place is for the people who live there actually get a lovely space, and they get access to not only physical well-being but mental well-being, where you're not trapped in some horrible place. You actually have a lovely outside, and that has been always a bonus of Kohler. And the people who live at Kohler, I know a number of them who also do a lot of community outreach type of work. So the people who live there are valuable, as well as how many people that actually employs in our city as well too. I'm thankful for the people that have jobs there. They have a number of really wonderful people there. And I just wanted to put in a plug that one of my worries is the future of Kohler, and I want to make sure that that is an entity that stays here. I lived in New York and watched St. Vincent's go away, and that was a tragedy, and that was crazy to me. And doing away with medical facilities is not a forward-thinking type of world that I want. I just want to put in a plug for Kohler, so I'll shut up. But thank you, BJ.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. That was very eloquent the way you shared that and heartfelt. Can we please go on to 917392? If you could please give us your name, please.
Hi, I'm also a resident of the island, and given that we're discussing
Hi,
the
what's your name,
island's
please?
economic.
Can you give us your name, please?
Hi, I'm Rohan. I'm
Thank
a
you.
resident of the island.
Thank you, Rohan.
Yeah, given that we're discussing the island's economic future, I just wanted to bring up the Graduate Hotel by the Cornell campus. You know, the hotel was a major attraction for many tourists and even some of us locals, but I just found out recently last week that it's closed for good. And I'm just wondering what the future plan for the site entails.
We'll see. That is part of Cornell Tech's campus and ground lease. And so I know we all have a vested interest in not having a dark hotel there, but is not directly within our control. So hopefully we'll hear more soon. But thank you for bringing that up.
Thanks for the question, Rohan. Eric, please. Can we go to Jonathan Cohen if we lost Eric?
Yes.
Hey, BJ. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to ask some questions. And Paul had mentioned just how transit infrastructure might factor into this initiative. And I've been thinking about sort of the North End connectivity since it's about like a mile from the main transit hub. And I'm curious to better understand like what the actual barriers are. It's probably a longer answer that you could give here, but is it funding? Is it jurisdictional complexity between agencies like REAC, MTA, DOT? I'm really just curious if there's like a realistic path forward as part of this initiative to consider expanding transportation infrastructure, perhaps on the North End. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's probably a combination of all of those things you mentioned. And we're going to have to dig into it as part of this process.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan, for the question. I'm going to come back to you, Zara, because I want to come to people first who've not had a chance to ask. I saw Eric. I had called Eric your name, but are you free now, Eric?
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't able to unmute myself the first time. Yeah, so I'm a resident of Eastwood, which is now called the Landings, as we know. And I just wanted to say I'm actually super optimistic that this process is happening, and I would love to see, to take a broader perspective, in New York City we have about 22% more jobs than we did in 2010, and only about 4% more housing units have been built, and we've really seen less housing units be added to the city in the last 50 years than in the 1920s alone. And I just think this is a real tragedy, and we're kind of robbing a lot of people of the ability to contribute to the beautiful fabric of the city, that makes it so special. And I would love to just see us realize that we have here on Roosevelt Island a giant opportunity, so much space that we could fit more housing into. We could obviously, I'm not saying get rid of all the parks, but we have so much space that we could like I just think it's a little like. I think it's a little silly to say that we need to preserve the Roosevelt Island exactly as it is, when we really could fit a lot more people. I would love to see like a doubling of the amount of people of neighbors that we have on this island, and just the number of people that I feel we could absorb and allow to be new neighbors, and offset the growing cost of housing in the city. I'm gonna end it there. But I just would love to see as much ambition as possible in adding housing and doing what we can as the island to contribute to fighting against the housing crisis, which I think is the defining crisis of this generation. So,
Eric, thank you for sharing your thoughts with such passion as well and so clearly. I'm going to move on to MP Grenier. I hope I've got that close. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
What's your name, please?
My name is Melinda Grenier. I've lived on the island for 19 years, and I appreciate the meeting, BJ. I appreciate your being here, willing to listen to all the questions. I have seen New York cram buildings into spaces that it never occurred to me you could put a building, including opposite the tram in a space that used to be a parking lot. that is now a building, and some of you have seen this, I'm sure, that is literally right next to the off-ramp of the Queensboro Bridge. I'm really puzzled as to how you can put a residential building on the space next to the bridge where the steam plant is. It will be right next to the bridge. People whose windows open onto the bridge side won't be able to open their windows because of the dirt and the dust. Also, they're going to be right next to the tram. The noise would be unbelievable. So what is the rationale of saying that that could be a residential site?
Yeah, I would say that, we're exploring these opportunities for their potential, and, these concerns should be, part of that conversation too, as should be the feasibility of these ideas and the needs that they'll generate. So I hear that and appreciate you sharing it.
I mean, it just seems like we're tearing down a building and saying, oh, we can put residential space there, but I don't even understand who even thinks this is feasible. Why is this even included in the potential for new housing on the island? Just because we're tearing down a building and there's a space there?
That certainly is what is prompting this conversation about the potential for that site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Melinda. Can we go to Gina, please?
Hi there, Gina Enoch here, resident for a very long time, and my husband, the family moved in 76, and I'm also the president of the board of Main Street Theater. And hi, BJ, nice to see you again. Boy, you've been busy since I saw you when you first started. I'm here to say, barge, barge, barge. No trucks. Now I've lived in 575 Main Street for, I don't know, 25 years. And I've spent many a sleepless night with the building of Southtown and the potholes and the banging. And then also on top of that, nails and debris in the road and flat tires. And my friends all have flat tires because there's nails in the road, and that cost us money. It cost us sleep. So Judy said, preserve Main Street, but please preserve my sleeping and all the babies that live on that side, that sleep on that side. My sons were growing up on that side and on Main Street. And you have to barge it in. When you take it down, you got to get it out via the waterway. It's so important for whatever your plans are for that safety. If there's any kind of safety, involved in dismantling it, barge it. Main Street's so small, and it's already called Asthma Alley. If you don't know that, it's Asthma Alley. And a lot of people growing up here had asthma. I don't know if that's why, but you can't. And also the kids that, there's a sense of freedom and safety with these little kids crossing the street. I know when my kids were growing up, they got to go to Main Street theaters by themselves, crossing Main Street. Right. And trucks back and forth that don't know the stop signs, that think stop signs are like just slow down. Main Street itself is a little bit dangerous, and then you throw in trucks and people that don't know it, and it's really, please, whatever you do with the steam plant, please barge. Make that a priority when you hire the company to dismantle that.
Yeah, this is HPD's purview. We will definitely pass that along.
The pollution, the safety, all that. Yeah. Health and everyone's health. Yeah. And sleep. We need our sleep.
Sleep is good.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
Yeah. Gina, I'll just mention as well, EDC with DOT is relooking at our waterways, what we're calling blue highways, to transport mostly freight, but other means of like construction materials and things like that. So I think that's a really good opportunity and something we'll definitely flag to the contractor who will be demoing the site.
Thank you. My biggest concern with that. Yes. I
think-
appreciate it.
I think Gina,
Thank you.
I think otherwise, Gina, you and I will be organizing barricades.
You got that right.
It's easy to choke off Main Street.
I know. You can see us standing there, arms on our hips, and
I mean, really, that's top of the list there. Yes, thank you.
thank you very much.
Can we
Take
please
care,
go to-
everybody.
Good night, Gina.
Thank you.
I know we've had Zora and Judy still waiting. We haven't heard from Kalin yet. Kalin, I hope I said it right. And BJ, thank you for staying on. I think we'll end after your session, and also folks from the EDC. Thank you for being on, Betsy and others. We'll end after these 3 questions for your part. So thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Kalin Kresnitsky, and I live on the island for over 10 years. It is admirable that RIOC and NYC EDC are engaging the Roosevelt Island community in the beginning of this planning process. In the spirit of this open dialogue and engagement, what can RIOC and NYC EDC do to stop and halt the demolition of the steam power plant so the community can explore all options for this building?
The short answer is this demolition is it's under an emergency demolition order from the city's Department of Buildings, and so HPD is required to follow through with it. And so to the extent you have concerns about the demolition, again, if you're able to participate in the meeting tomorrow, where we'll have a representative from HPD, please do. Otherwise, we'll set up a way to solicit questions and concerns to help get those to HPD and the city about this very thing.
How can we see the actual document based on which someone at DOB decided that there is an emergency? What the emergency is actually, we haven't seen it. We live in the island. Can we see the documents based on which this decision was made? By whom exactly? When?
Yeah, we'll look into getting that.
Can you share these documents with the community?
We'll connect with HPD and DOB on what's publicly available and shareable.
Because demolishing is relatively easy, but once done, it's gonna be too late. We can bring the building back, and there are so many different opportunities and uses of this building that are not gonna be linked to all the noise and dust and problems with potential demolition that the community is so concerned. All right, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, Kalin.
We'll wait for your involvement.
Thank you, Kalin. Can we please go to Zora?
Yeah, thank you for giving me the mic again. Appreciate it. I just want to go back to my original question. Maybe I wasn't super clear, but it seems like the process that was outlined to us today is talking about 2 particular sites of development, and development that will definitely happen. And so it makes me wonder, what has that been decided, or this is open for discussion? Can we save the power plant? I checked the DOB site as an architect. I have to be on their site very often, and the violation is very vague. And it's probably professional deformation, but every time I pass by the building, I lift my gaze, to look for deterioration on the facade, and there is none. The building looks very sound. It looks like its bones are very good. And it's a huge opportunity to save money because somebody's paying tax money for the demolition. It's an excellent opportunity to provide a facility that can benefit people on the island, but also New York City. And that's a great opportunity for EDC to prove that their values are with sustainability in mind. That they have sustainability in mind. There is, I'm going to repeat for everybody, there is, as an architect, I'm saying it, there's nothing more unsustainable than demolishing a building that can be repurposed. Even if you have to peel everything off and just keep the concrete structure, it's still more sustainable to do that than to demolish it. So can we, I'm going to second Colleen, can we see the structural report that UB based emergency order on? I'm really curious because the building looks very sound.
Yeah, we'll connect with the city on what's shareable pertaining to the emergency demolition order. So stay tuned on that. And back to your question about the sites. Yes, these are the two sites that have kind of prompted this planning study and community engagement process. To the extent there are other areas that you think we should explore, would welcome your thoughts on that as part of this project. I would also say that there isn't, even though we have an eye towards the redevelopment of these sites, it's important to us to go through this process and talk about the infrastructure needs and community needs and the feasibility of it to ultimately make that determination. And so there's a lot of steps between now and then before that would happen.
So BJ, can we join when HPD is here to discuss the demolition?
They'll be at our Operations Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow evening.
Okay,
which is a public meeting.
Yeah, in the church.
No, it's at our 680 office.
It's in the office, so we can join and ask our questions.
Yes.
We have, with the new administration, we have a unique opportunity with the new city administration coming in January to reframe and rethink what actually affordable housing is for the future. So I think, my feeling as an architect is that we should be extremely careful with any rushed process.
Yeah.
Housing is needed. I agree with the person that was talking about this. We need more housing and we cannot be selfish and insist on not developing.
Thank you very much for your comments, Zora. Let's move on to the next one, please. With everyone, thank you. Judy, Bertie, and then we'll end this part.
Okay, thank you. I stare out of my window looking at Queensboro Bridge, Queens Plaza area. There's absolutely no planning, nothing. Thousands and thousands of units of housing are going up. Not one of them is affordable. Not one of them is affordable. Why they get to build tens of thousands of units, not one affordable unit, and you want to push the affordable units onto Roosevelt Island? It doesn't make any sense. We deserve some affordable units. It's fine. Whatever you build is affordable. But you look at what is around us that's going up, that's strictly luxury. It doesn't make any sense. Secondly, I forgot, I also need an office. EDC needs an office of COLA. I think anyone who works with EDC and is discussing COLA, they should be at COLA. The same thing they should be at Main Street. I think that if EDC has any plans, let them be there. Let them find out about the plans for quote unquote a berm and the plans for any part of the hospital. The horrible plans that were submitted to them. And that really shocked the residents and shocked the community. EDC has to be here. So now you have to give them two offices, one on Main Street and one in Culver. And I really want this to be a success, but I do not want the steam plant to be a giveaway to a certain developer. And I know there are developers jumping at the bit, and they want their piece of the action. The last developer who did all our new buildings, was supposed to repave and repair Main Street after their 9 buildings were built. It's time to call them up and say, okay, your 9 buildings are built. Your construction company wrecked our streets since the year 2000, 24 years. Their construction equipment came and went on Main Street, and they never paid 1 cent to repair our streets. It's about time that the developer of all the buildings from 405 Main Street to 575 Main Street ante up the money. I'm sure you can find it in your contracts that it was they were supposed to pay for repairing Main Street and the damages they did. That's what I'm going to say. And I'll see you tomorrow night at the meeting.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's just do one last quick one, this final one, because I just saw one hand go up. Hez Hossein. Then that'll be it for questions. Promise.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for your time. Yeah, I think this is great that we're doing this study. One question I had, and I was wondering, moving to this island, a lot of these buildings don't have dedicated parking lots or parking garages. And how did they get away with that? Like a lot of these buildings, and usually I thought it was a law in New York City to have dedicated garages, even though we do have the motor gate.
I don't know the answer to that question.
I know part of the answer.
Paul does?
I know part of the answer, but Judy knows. Judy knows this much better than I do.
I was going to say.
when this island was inhabited in the 70s, it was designed to be a car-free environment, and the cars were supposed to be left at the motor gate, and then bit by bit, the cars have crept in to become this place is not car-free anymore. So it's a different kind of place. It's also state land in terms of how it's governed. Folks on the EDC might know as well better than I do.
Yeah, and I'll just add that there's a governing GDP or general development plan that outlines some of these kind of guidances, in particular with parking, the ideal of like a car-free, pedestrian-forward neighborhood. And so that's why you see that today. And I think with the city of Yes, those parking requirements have changed as well. So certain areas within Manhattan, Queens, and things like that, there's no actual parking requirement, but essentially that it is state-owned land, and so there's a different entity that's guiding the development.
Part of what I think a lot of people like about this place is it's like an oasis of calm. It's been described as. It's quiet, it's calm. It's not like living in Manhattan where you've got blocks and traffic and noise and that stuff. And that comes because it's not cars everywhere, so you can't have both. I guess that's how it all came up. We'll finish that. So thank you very much, Betsy, and all your colleagues from the EDC. For BJ, thank you very much. You're very welcome to stay on, but thank you for this presentation. It's been very helpful and very informative.
Talk to you soon.
I will say one more thing before we go into the final presentation. For all of those who, one more plea. Please tell your friends who live on the island when there's a meeting coming up, please start being aware of it. You can easily check every month when the meeting is. So I do intend this to be a forum. There'll be things we'll want to get together and talk about that we like, don't like, want to see changes with, whatever it is about this huge plan that's coming towards us. So please encourage people to come and join in here. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Can we please unmute Felicia? Felicia's going to talk to us about her campaign and other people's campaign to do something about our ridiculous pricing for a lot of items at Foodtown.
Hi,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, you're all set. Thanks, Felicia.
Thank you, Paul. Hi, everyone. My name is Felicia Ruff, and I am the Vice President of the Roosevelt Island Residents Association. I am also head of the Island Services Committee, and I have organized protests at our neighborhood Foodtown. We implore the support of the residents of Roosevelt Island and all elected officials to help us in stopping the price gouging and unfair practices at Foodtown on Roosevelt Island. The residents of Roosevelt Island are calling on Foodtown, owned by billionaires John Catsimatidis, to immediately stop price gouging, selling expired products, and neglecting the needs of our seniors, disabled residents, and families on fixed incomes. Foodtown is the only full-service grocery store on the island, giving it a monopoly-like control over food access for thousands of people. Prices have steadily increased, while product quality has declined, leaving this community frustrated, stressed, and struggling to afford basic groceries. For years, Roosevelt Island has relied on Foodtown as its primary source of groceries. However, many residents have noticed excessive markups compared to other NYC Foodtown locations. They've noticed expired and spoiled items still on shelves. They've noticed a pattern of ignoring community feedback and requests. As a small, tight-knit island community, including families, essential workers, seniors, and people with disabilities, we deserve fair treatment, transparency, and safe access to food. So we're demanding that Foodtown cease price gouging and align prices with NYC averages, remove expired products from shelves immediately, and improve store quality control, which is a human right, and I should not have to implore. No one should be forced to overpay or risk their health for basic groceries. It is a human right. So I implore your support for the residents of Roosevelt Island with protesting the Foodtown supermarket, imploring Cats to Medides to provide us with quality grocery at fair market value and on a consistent basis. Thank you so much for your time, Paul. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Felicia, before you go, is there some way that people can get in touch or some way they can keep, informed about when you have protests or things going on? What's the best way to connect people to you in the campaign?
Absolutely. Well, actually, we have an online petition, and you can find that petition on Roosevelt Island Connect. And if you ever see me, that little face that you're looking at, you see me out and about, 9 times out of 10, I have an actual physical petition in my hand. But to stay updated, please, everyone, I need you to link up with and follow Roosevelt Island Connect or the Roosevelt Islander. Rick O'Connor is a great supporter of providing that type of information to our community publicly.
Great. Thank you, Felicia. That's been a really helpful meeting, a great meeting. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone. Again, no meeting in January, but first Monday of February. So happy holiday season, everybody.